I'd experimented with drugs in my youth, like in my teenage years, up until I was about 19. And then when I started studying at college and then uni, I sort of didn't have the money or time to do anything like that. So yeah. And then I had a death in the family. My dad emigrated. I had a baby all in the space of 6 months, and I ended up with postnatal depression. And at that very moment, I met somebody that was using heroin. I would say the very first time I took drugs was when I drank alcohol. First time I took heroin was when I was 27. I hadn't touched anything like that since my teenage years. So yeah, I went from nothing really to heroin quite quickly. I think when you're using, I think you're so detached from the rest of society that you don't realise that you were until afterwards. I was able to detach myself from my feelings and my thoughts, and it was a good feeling because my mind had been quite busy since I was a child. So yeah, it was a relief, I suppose. I didn't use every day to begin with. I think I smoked it now and then every other day became every day. And then I started injecting, and I got to the point where I knew that it'd become a big issue and I needed to address it. And I asked for help, yeah. I think I was quite lucky in the sense that I didn't start using until my late 20s. I had a point of reference to my life and what it was like beforehand. So a lot of people that I meet now are starting to use when they're teenagers, like children. So I had a point of reference to go back to, and I knew the differences there, and I knew that something had to be done. I wasn't functioning as a mother, and I think that was the biggest issue for me, because I'd always been a good mum and the kids were always well looked after. My parenting was never in question, even when I'd went to ask for help and they got social work and that got involved, but I was absent emotionally for them, and it started to tell on my older son. So I phoned social work, and when I think back, like I believed in social work. I was studying to be a social worker. I believed in the services and the things they could do to help people, and yes, I became very disillusioned very quickly. Their answer to help supporting me through that part of my chaotic drug use was to remove my children and place orders on them and take them away from everything they know and leave me isolated on my own. And I think they think the punitive style of supporting someone will kick them into getting better. I mean, it did the trick for me, but I've seen it with many other people that it just goes the opposite way. And there was nothing available in Dundee as far as recovery community unless you were going to fellowship that. So I joined forces with a guy who'd created a Facebook and Twitter page, and it evolved from there. So my work began before I shared with the kids. So they knew the kind of work I was doing. So the conversation was quite easy. They knew that my health had been impacted quite badly by something. They just didn't know what it was. And when I told them it was heroin, they didn't believe me. But I mean, they're older now and they've seen my work over 3 years. And I think with my older son, building the relationships back up to what they were before, especially with him, was very difficult. And that didn't happen until he moved out and got his own flat. I think if you've already had issues in your past, then it's just going to escalate from there. I think a lot of people say, oh, you can't blame your childhood or your trauma or that on addiction. And I do believe that to a degree. I think they're contributing factors, and whether you make a choice or not, it's still there. The drug culture's changed dramatically since I was actively using. I think that the high rate of poverty, unemployment, social aspects like single parent families or children that have been removed from families that are living in care, I think these are all contributing factors. I think essentially there is no sense of community anymore, and people are still isolated, whether they're drug users or not. And I think that has a huge impact on how people can cope with everyday life. Scotland needs to be able to move forward and take control of the dire situation that's going on. I also believe there should have been a public health inquiry already in what's been going on, and I'm wondering why that's not happened. If it was any other group of people that were dying at the rates that they are, it would have been done a long time ago. I would ask the MPs to obviously listen to the evidence, listen to it again and again, and make sure the recommendations that they put forward are at least considered, and hopefully bring some good changes. Yeah.